The third one, remember the third principle, is instead of sequential, you take a life cycle, and particularly a permanent approach. You create a portfolio of strategies. Plans are nice, but in the heat of daily life, plans are only so useful in the end, right? Things change. That's daily life, and that goes back to all the way to my real favorite strategist from the old days, and that is the old von Moltke, a German general, a rather unpleasant Prussian, but he was very smart about strategy, and he understood that if you sent a battalion or an army in war, that at that point in time the army is alone. And the general is usually not there. The general sits high and dry at headquarters. And the team, the army that needs to make the decisions, needs to have a certain degree of freedom to do that. So what he said, it makes no sense for me to develop an exact strategy of what needs to be done. I need to build flexibility into the system. So there needs to be general directions and a general pattern, yes. So we orchestrate everything, but a certain degree of freedom, and actually quite a lot, needs to be developed. And you need to train the commanders in the field on how to react and to think in scenarios. Recognize that? I think in today we recognize that. So this came from the military from quite a while ago. Now those principles have been rediscovered. Actually, we're writing about von Moltke more than for a whole century, believe it or not. Again, if you want some literature, this is my absolute favorite, Rita Gundert-McGrath, who wrote about the end of competitive advantage. And it's more or less the same thing. So she also says that you need to think about continuous strategy development. That is really what you need to do. And we like to use in Kearney. We like to use with this diagram, but you can have a million if you want to. It doesn't matter. It's just the usefulness of it. And we like to look at strategies more in a life cycle approach. Any company or any country, I would argue too, or any organization, needs to take this approach. Needs to look at what are my strategies, plural, action areas, strategic action areas, and how are they developed over time. Some are mature, some are already declining, some are more up and coming. Some really are leading in terms of level of excellence, some are average, and some are still lacking. And you plot them, and you constantly plot them, and you manage that cycle. And if you manage that cycle well enough over time, you gain competitive advantage. So it's a living thing. That's the basic idea about that.